I'm David Roars. 2024 marks the 100th anniversary of surrealism, and to celebrate, the work I'll be creating this year will honor surrealists that have inspired me and my art. My goal is to release these monthly or bi-monthly. Let's see what the year brings. I'm looking forward to celebrating the Surreal Centennial. Here's to the year ahead. Happy New Year. I'm David Roars. 2024 marks the 100th anniversary of surrealism, and to celebrate, the work I'll be creating this year will honor surrealists that have inspired me and my art. However, the first artist I've decided to pay tribute to didn't even consider himself a surrealist. In fact, he didn't want to be associated with the surrealist group at all. Rather than referring to his work as surreal photography, Mutter called his pieces photomontages. Mutter created all his work in a darkroom, even after Photoshop had become available, as he believed this was the only way they were truly originals. I remember I was fairly young, before I'd ever heard of surrealism or any kind of art movement. I was in a decoration store looking at poster prints, and I came upon a number of Mutter's photomontages. These absolutely blew me away. This was the 1980s, and seeing concepts like this in a painting or a sketch wasn't nearly as fascinating as seeing the impossible captured in a photograph. For this piece that I've created, I wish I could have used darkroom techniques as Mutter did to create his work. Unfortunately, time and resources wouldn't allow. I borrowed 3 concepts from Mutter for this piece. 1, a person walking on water with his back to us, suitcase in left hand, the rippling of the tile as if it were water, and trees growing out of the floor. Mutter, thank you for the inspiration. This is the piece I created as a tip of the hat to you. I'm David Roars. 2024 marks the 100th anniversary of surrealism, and to celebrate, the work I'll be creating this year is to honor surrealists that have inspired me and my art. Surrealism is a unique genre of art as it can be executed by any number of different forms of media: painting, writing, filmmaking, etc. The next artist I've decided to pay tribute to is a contemporary photographer, but don't worry, we'll get to the painters. Mirek Iskra describes himself as a Polish artist that specializes in surreal photography. I must say, I had mixed feelings when I first discovered his profile on Instagram. On one hand, I was astonished by the quality of Mirek's work, the amount of detail and talent displayed in each piece. And on the other hand, I was almost disheartened to find someone that had already accomplished what I was just setting out to achieve. I don't know for sure, but as far as I can tell, Mirek uses a combination of both original photography and stock photos. I believe this allows for wonderful pieces to be created that otherwise wouldn't if left to his own devices, not limiting himself as I do with only original photographs. So when it came time to come up with an idea that reflected the inspiration Mirek offers, I found this a very difficult task. This piece may be my favorite surreal photo ever, or like this one, I wanted to do something in the same vein, using photographs I took while in Italy. Admittedly, the quality I was looking for just wasn't there, so I had to go in a different direction. Although Mirek seems to stay within a certain color palette, his work offers large variety of subject matter. He leans into the dark and the macabre, but he also has several works that reflect cute animals. So, my 6-year-old German Shepherd Odin. He's been in a couple of my pieces, but not as the main subject. I thought this would be a good opportunity to mimic some of Mirek's work with Odin as a central character. Another unique aspect for this piece, for me, is that the image of the rocket is a stock photo. Everything else is original, including the crumbling building. I'm not pretending to be on the same level as this talented artist, but here's the work that I created as a nod of appreciation to Mirek Iskra. Happy birthday to me and Dalí. Salvador Dalí is perhaps the most recognizable and popular surrealist ever. He's one of the best-known painters of the modern era due to his masterful ability to subvert accepted ideas and push the boundaries of creativity. I'm David Rohrs. 2024 marks the 100th anniversary of surrealism. And to celebrate, the work I'm creating this year is to honor surrealists that have inspired me and my art. Salvador Dalí definitely made an impact, but not just on me. His paintings have inspired generations of artists. Dalí was born and educated in Spain. It wasn't until 1929 that he officially joined the surrealist movement in Paris, a group of artists dedicated to exploring the creative and often disturbing power of the unconscious mind. Dalí's relationship with the surrealist group was volatile. He was expelled in 1934 for his political ideals. Aside from painting, Dalí worked in film, sculpture, jewelry making, and photography. There is a lot of inspiration to draw from with this artist. Unique landscapes, or twisted, distorted figures, hidden faces. The impact has shown through in some of my work. But it's this photograph of Dalí's that I'm modeling my new work after. Everything is in free fall, and Dalí himself is present. I've been in a couple of my own works, but I've never shown my face. So for this piece, I've decided to feature myself. I also asked my wonderful wife to be the model for this project. Dalí used Gala's likeness in a number of his paintings, and I find this relevant. We had such a fun time with this photo shoot. Thanks, love. Today, May 11th, 2024, is my 48th birthday, and would have been Dalí's 120th birthday. Since we share this date of birth, I hope I do Salvador Dalí some honor with this work. After Scott Mutter, but before Mirek Iskra, I discovered the work of Erik Johansson, a Swedish photographer and visual artist based in Prague. I'm David Rohrs. 2024 marks the 100th anniversary of surrealism. And to celebrate, the work I'm creating this year is to honor surrealists that have inspired me and my art. Although my interest in blending photographs together started in the mid-90s, it really wasn't something I became truly dedicated to until about 2015. That's when I started to really concentrate on the quality of the work and invest in new equipment. I wasn't on social media at the time, so I had yet to realize, in my naivety, I wasn't the only person using Photoshop in this way. In early 2016, I was in the photography section of my local bookstore and I found Erik Johansson's book, Imagine. Well, imagine my surprise and gut-wrenching reaction to this insanely well-done surreal photography book. I flipped through the pages and realized, this guy is already living my dream. I felt my art career ending then and there. What was the point? He'd already done it. And the quality of his work was far beyond what I thought I was capable of doing. However, rather than being discouraged, I thought, I really need to step up my game. This might be the biggest inspiration I had had. Just 3 years later, Erik Johansson had his first US exhibit here in Minneapolis at the Swedish Institute, where I got to see his work close up, and was even able to meet Erik and ask him a couple questions about his process. Coincidentally, I had photographed the Swedish Institute a couple of years previous for one of my very first art pieces. It seemed to be a full circle moment for me, meeting and viewing the work of one of my surreal heroes in a castle that's floating in the sky. For this piece that I'm creating, I took 3 concepts from Johansson. Many of his pieces are set in a scenic field or highlight the outdoors. He also has several works that feature objects that are disproportionately larger than they are in reality. And finally, the peeling away of one reality to reveal another. I decided to make the theme and the oversized objects personal to me, but use a nice Swedish red to honor the work of this incredible artist, Erik Johansson. Belgian surrealist painter Renee Magret. Even if you're not familiar with his name, you're probably still familiar with his work. He's responsible for some of the best known surreal images of the 20th century. I'm David Rohrs. 2024 marks the 100th anniversary of surrealism. And to celebrate, the work I'm creating this year is to honor surrealists that have inspired me and my art. Magret moved to Paris and joined the surrealist group of the 1920s. He was there only 3 years before returning to Brussels. Magret lived a quiet life in the suburbs. He painted and walked his dog at the same time every day. He didn't achieve commercial success with his art until late in his life. As you may or may not know, back in 2021 I created an art piece inspired by and as an homage to Renee Magret. Magret's selfie had an accompanying behind-the-scenes artist workshop video I produced in conjunction with St. Louis Park Friends of the Arts. In that video, I talk about recreating Magret's concept of his night and day paintings to use as the background for that piece. Proving not everything goes to plan, this was minimized to make room for the main focus, the surreal aspect of a duplicate image. I later came to regret my last-minute decision to crop and not embrace the night and day aspect more. So for this new piece I've created, I really wanted to lean into it and make it the main draw. I do like to include a human aspect, so I've asked my 80-something-year-old father to reprise his role as Magret. However, as with the subjects in this painter's art, it's never that straightforward. The inspiration this artist offers is seemingly endless, and worth a second attempt to honor the great Renee Magret. However, as with the subjects in this penis, it was 1980-something, and I was obsessed with all things REM. In their song, Feeling Gravity's Pull, are the lyrics, "It's a man-ray kind of sky." It would be a decade before I knew what they were talking about. I believe this is the piece to what they were referring, by surrealist painter and photography pioneer, Man Ray. I'm David Roars. 2024 marks the 100th anniversary of surrealism, and to celebrate, the work I'm creating this year is to honor surrealists that have inspired me and my art. Man Ray was an American-born artist that was living in Paris during the Dada and Surrealist movement of the 1920s. He considered himself a painter above all else, but it was in photography where he made a name for himself. All the biggest names of the day would visit Ray in his studio to get their portrait taken. He also discovered how to take a photograph without using a camera, by placing objects on photosensitive paper and exposing it. He would name this process rayographs, a technique that's still taught in photography classes today. One of the techniques he developed, pun intended, was something called solarization, where an object appeared to be both a mix of positive and negative. So keeping it dead simple, a solarized portrait is what I've created for my piece to recognize perhaps the original surreal photographer, Man Ray. These are all the art pieces or videos of mine that were inspired by the words of Michael Stipe, an American singer, songwriter, and visual artist best known as the frontman for the band REM. I'm David Roars. 2024 marks the 100th anniversary of surrealism, and to celebrate, the work I'm creating this year is to honor surrealists that have inspired me and my art. I don't know that Stipe would consider himself a surrealist, but I felt the need to include a piece inspired by him for this campaign, as he had such a heavy influence on my work. I'm even on record. Michael Stipe from REM is probably the biggest influence with their lyrics and the images that they create. If surrealism art comes from the unconscious mind and is meant to be dreamlike, I think the lyrics and art Stipe offers fits that bill. Since REM disbanded in 2011, Stipe has leaned into his photography background, revisiting his original passion in the form of releasing, to date, 4 photography books and displaying his visual work in art galleries in New York and abroad. In 2019, Stipe hosted a talk at the New York Public Library promoting his then just released Our Interference Times. I was lucky enough to be able to attend this event and even meet Michael and tell him what his art has meant to me. He was down to earth, generous, and kind. So for this new piece that I'm creating, I wanted to pull influence from his photography and not from the visuals that his lyrics have historically conjured in my mind. I spent an afternoon poring over his books, finding elements of inspiration. There are a number of his works where the subject is displayed on a screen, probably a computer monitor, and then photographed, creating this distortion of color and creating that pixelized rainbow effect. So I just took that concept and ran with it. Michael Stipe, thank you for all the years of artistic inspiration from your music. I'm looking forward to what your photography will inspire in me, and it starts with this. This is it. This is the last piece of this surreal centennial celebrational campaign. I'm David Roars. 2024 marked the 100th anniversary of surrealism, and to celebrate, the work I created this year was to honor surrealists that had inspired me in my art. If you know me personally, then you know I'm a massive Doctor Who fan. Doctor Who is a science fiction show that's been around for over 60 years. It's about a time-traveling alien called the Doctor. Since 2005, the most successful writer and showrunner has been Moffat, a television producer, writer, and screenwriter. You may not think of surrealism when watching a science fiction show, but so many of the elements that make this show stand apart are very much surreal. The weeping angels. They're only alive when you're not looking at them. Or the silence. You forget about them as soon as you look away. Even the Doctor's mode of transport is surreal, bigger on the inside and out, and can travel to any planet and at any point in that planet's history. The elements I'm taking for inspiration from one of Moffat's episodes is perhaps more unique within television than it is in an art piece. In this episode, an unfortunate gets pulled into a puddle on the ground, but it's no ordinary puddle. Like the Doctor's ship, it's bigger on the inside. We went puddle hunting back in June. I need to take a minute to thank my wife for being in this piece. She was a real trooper, being dunked underwater for 68 shots. It wasn't fun for her, so I appreciate it all the more. I've been watching Doctor Who since I can remember, but it hasn't just inspired my art, but also my fashion sense, moral compass, and the need to embrace people who don't necessarily fit the mold. To Steven Moffat, thank you for so many wonderful episodes of my favorite program. And to the Doctor, thank you for a lifetime of imagining new and different worlds. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed my celebration of this surreal centennial. Thank you for being here with me. Happy New Year.